I came home from my business trip a day early, hoping to surprise Alicia. Instead, I found an empty apartment and a strange stillness that felt wrong immediately. No note, no text, just silence. When she didn't return that night, panic set in. 3 days later, I checked our joint account and discovered $23,000 missing. Then a mutual friend forwarded me an Instagram post showing Alicia in the Maldives kissing her ex Ryan on a private deck over crystal blue water. The same ex she claimed to hate. The vacation she always dreamed of paid for with the money I had saved for our future. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt completely blindsided by someone you trusted. I met Alicia at my college friend Tony's 30th birthday party. She walked in wearing a blue sundress, her dark hair catching the light as she laughed at something someone said. Our eyes met across the room, and there was an immediate connection that felt like recognition, as though we had known each other in some previous life. I made my way over, introduced myself, and by the end of the night we had spent 3 hours talking on Tony's back porch, completely oblivious to the party going on around us. Our first date was dinner at a small Italian restaurant downtown. She told me she worked at Horizon Travel, a boutique agency that specialized in luxury vacation packages. The irony of that detail would only become apparent much later. I shared that I was an architect at a growing firm recently promoted to project lead. We clicked instantly, finishing each other's sentences and discovering a shared love of hiking old movies and street food from around the world. Early in our relationship, Alicia opened up about her ex-boyfriend Ryan. According to her, he was controlling, manipulative, and had broken her heart repeatedly during their 3-year relationship. She described dramatic fights, jealous outbursts, and a final betrayal with her former best friend that had left her devastated. I remember holding her as she cried, recounting these stories, thinking how anyone could treat someone so wonderful so terribly. I promised myself I would never hurt her that way. After 8 months of dating, we decided to move in together. My lease was ending and her roommate was moving out of state. It made perfect sense. We found a 2-bedroom apartment with a view of the city park, agreeing the second bedroom would serve as a home office for me, and eventually we both hinted maybe a nursery someday. Those first months of domesticity were blissful. I loved coming home to her cooking in the kitchen or finding little notes she left in my laptop bag. I had been with my architectural firm for 6 years by then and had established myself as reliable and creative. My career was on a strong upward trajectory, with each new project bringing greater responsibility and recognition. I was passionate about sustainable design and had started to develop a reputation in that niche, which brought personal satisfaction as well as financial stability. Alicia often talked about her dreams of traveling the world. Working at the travel agency gave her access to incredible destinations through photos and client stories. But she had actually traveled surprisingly little herself. She kept a vision board in our home office covered with pictures of overwater bungalows in the Maldives, cherry blossoms in Japan, and the northern lights in Iceland. I promised her we would see them all together someday. The Maldives was always at the top of her list. The ultimate dream vacation, she would describe in vivid detail. We balanced each other well in those early days. Where I was methodical and sometimes too serious, she was spontaneous and brought lightness into my life. I helped her create structure and work toward long-term goals, while she reminded me to enjoy the present moment. At least that was the story I told myself about our compatibility. As our relationship deepened, we began making concrete plans for our future together. After a year of living together, we decided to open a joint savings account specifically for a down payment on a house. We both agreed to deposit a set amount each month, though in practice I contributed significantly more due to my higher salary. I had always been disciplined about finances, setting up automatic transfers to various savings and investment accounts before I ever saw the money in my checking account. Alicia had a different relationship with money. She enjoyed small luxuries, designer handbags, and weekend spa trips with her girlfriends. While these expenses sometimes concerned me, she always insisted she was still contributing her share to our future. I trusted her and believed that with time her financial habits would align more closely with mine. When she suggested we give each other full access to the joint account for simplicity, I agreed without hesitation. Complete trust seemed like the foundation of our shared future. We spent countless evenings looking at real estate listings online, debating neighborhoods and house features. I created detailed spreadsheets projecting how long it would take us to save enough for a 20% down payment in our target areas. According to my calculations, we would reach our goal within 2 years if we both stayed committed to our savings plan. I had also begun secretly setting aside money for an engagement ring, planning to propose on our upcoming 2-year anniversary. Our families had become intertwined in our lives as well. My parents adored Alicia and often invited us for Sunday dinners. Her mother, a widow living in Florida, had visited twice and seemed to approve of me. We spent holidays together, created new traditions, and built a social circle that treated us as a permanent fixture. Everyone saw us as the couple who had everything figured out. I gave Alicia complete access to my life. She knew my passwords, had a key to my small safety deposit box with family heirlooms, and was an authorized user on my credit card for emergencies. I held nothing back, believing this transparency was how you built a lifetime partnership. Looking back, there were warning signs that I deliberately ignored or rationalized away. Sometimes, when we were with friends and the conversation turned to exes, Alicia would get a faraway look when discussing Ryan. Despite claiming to hate him, her voice would take on a quality that sounded more like longing than loathing. When I gently asked about this once, she became defensively angry, accusing me of not trusting her, which effectively shut down any further discussion. There were unexplained absences, too. Evenings when she would come home hours later than expected from supposedly having drinks with coworkers. When I called her office once to surprise her with lunch plans, her colleague mentioned she had taken a personal day, despite telling me she was swamped with work. I convinced myself these inconsistencies had innocent explanations, that my suspicions were unfounded and unfair to someone who had been so hurt by distrust in the past. My friend Marcus tried to warn me once. He pulled me aside at a barbecue after noticing Alicia texting intensely in the corner, her expression shifting between smiles and concern. "I think she might still be hung up on her ex-man," he said carefully. "The way she talks about him seems off." I dismissed his concern, even felt angry at him for suggesting it. In retrospect, his observation was just one of many breadcrumbs, leading to a truth I wasn't ready to see. Alicia's interest in luxury travel destinations intensified as our relationship progressed. Her Instagram feed became filled with aspirational travel content, and she would spend hours researching 5-star resorts and exclusive experiences. I supported this passion, believing it was just an extension of her job and an innocent form of escapism. I never imagined these weren't just dreams, but actual plans being formulated without me. During the last few months before her disappearance, I noticed she had become increasingly distant during our evenings together. Our conversations about house hunting tapered off, and when I brought up future plans, she would redirect the conversation or give non-committal responses. She stopped asking about my work projects and seemed perpetually distracted by her phone. I attributed this to work stress, or perhaps a phase in our relationship, never suspecting she was actively plotting her exit. In a particularly painful memory, I recall Alicia casually asking about the exact balance in our joint savings account just a week before she vanished. I proudly told her we had almost $23,000, right on track for our goal. She smiled and kissed me, saying, "You are so good with money. I am lucky to have you." I thought she was expressing gratitude for our shared future. Instead, she was calculating exactly how much she could take. The day everything changed was supposed to be ordinary. I had been in Chicago for a 4-day architecture conference, but managed to wrap up my obligations a day early. I decided to surprise Alicia by coming home Thursday evening rather than Friday as planned. I even stopped to pick up her favorite takeout and a bottle of wine, imagining her delight at seeing me. When I entered our apartment, the silence was immediately noticeable. No music playing, no TV in the background, none of the usual sounds of Alicia moving about. I called out her name, thinking perhaps she was in the shower, but received no response. I noticed her keys weren't on the entry hook, where she always left them. I texted her surprise home early. "Where are you?" As the evening progressed without any response, mild curiosity transformed into concern. I called her closest friend Jess, who claimed she hadn't heard from Alicia that day, but would let her know I was looking for her if she reached out. There was something off about Jess's tone, a forced casualness that should have alerted me, but I was still operating under the assumption that everything was fundamentally okay. When midnight came and went with no word, I began checking our apartment more carefully. Her favorite suitcase was missing from the closet. Her passport, which we kept in a desk drawer, was gone. The bathroom was missing specific toiletries and makeup items she would never leave behind for an overnight stay somewhere. A cold feeling settled in my stomach as I realized this wasn't a spontaneous night out, but something planned. I barely slept that night, checking my phone every few minutes for a message that never came. By morning, my worry had transformed into a terrible suspicion that something was seriously wrong. I called her workplace only to be told by an uncomfortable-sounding receptionist that Alicia had given her notice 2 weeks ago and no longer worked there. This was the first seismic shock, learning that the woman I lived with had quit her job without telling me. The second day of her absence, I called her mother in Florida, trying to keep my voice casual, as I asked if she had heard from Alicia recently. Her confusion was genuine. She clearly had no idea where her daughter was either. I began calling hospitals, checking accident reports online, and even drove by Jess's apartment, but her curtains were drawn, and no one answered the door. By the third day, with still no contact, and mounting evidence of deliberate departure, I finally checked our joint savings account, a step I had been avoiding out of some misplaced sense of trust. The balance that had been $23,000 just days ago now read zero. A single withdrawal had been made the day before I returned from Chicago. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. As I stared at the screen, the truth impossible to deny any longer. In a state of shock, I began checking my credit card statements online. There it was, plain as day. 2 one-way first-class tickets to Maldives, purchased a week earlier. Hotel reservations at an exclusive resort with private overwater bungalows. Shopping sprees at luxury retailers. In total, nearly $15,000 in unauthorized charges beyond the emptied savings account. I remember sitting on our couch hyperventilating as the reality of the situation crashed over me. This wasn't a misunderstanding or an emergency. This was calculated, premeditated betrayal. The woman I had planned to propose to had robbed me blind and disappeared without even the courtesy of a goodbye. As I was still processing this staggering realization, my phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. His text was brief. "Call me now." When I did, his voice was gentle, but direct. "Look, man, I did not want to be the one to show you this, but you need to see it." He sent a screenshot from Instagram stories showing Alicia in a bikini on a pristine white beach tagged with the location of one of the most exclusive resorts in the Maldives. She looked radiant, happier than I had seen her in months. The next image was what truly destroyed me. Alicia on the private deck of an overwater bungalow at sunset, locked in a passionate kiss with a tall, tanned man I had never seen before. Except somehow I knew exactly who he was. The caption read, "Finally, living my dream with my dream man. Worth the wait. Number, second chances, number, true love." Another friend who followed Alicia's private account sent additional photos confirming my suspicions. The man was indeed Ryan, the supposedly terrible ex she had claimed to hate. Comments from her friends, including Jess, showed they were all aware of the plan, offering congratulations and heart emojis. I had been the only one in the dark, the mark in an elaborate con. The complete humiliation of discovering the truth so publicly through social media posts flaunted to mutual friends was almost as painful as the betrayal itself. While I had been worrying about her safety, calling hospitals and police stations, she had been posting bikini pictures from a $2,500 per night overwater villa paid for with my money. With shaking hands, I opened Alicia's laptop, which she had left behind, likely assuming I would not check it before she was long gone. Our accounts were linked through the cloud, and I discovered emails between her and Ryan dating back 6 months. They had been planning this escape, meticulously calculating exactly how much they could take from me and how to maximize the experience with my credit cards before they were inevitably canceled. I found a drafted letter she had apparently decided not to leave, perhaps because it would have given me too much warning to protect my finances. It was cold and unapologetic, explaining she had never gotten over Ryan and had reconnected with him through social media 3 months after moving in with me. She wrote that while I was kind and stable, I could not give her the excitement and passion she needed. She claimed to have been settling with me, seeing me as financial security while she waited for the right moment to return to her true love. The most devastating revelation came when I contacted some of our mutual friends, who eventually admitted under pressure that many of them knew about the affair. They had seen Alicia and Ryan together multiple times over the past few months while I was working late or traveling for business. No one had warned me out of misplaced loyalty to her, or simply to avoid the discomfort of being the bearer of bad news. I also discovered the truth about Ryan, whose full name I learned was Ryan Westfield. Far from being the struggling musician Alicia had described, he came from significant family wealth and worked in investment banking. This explained the luxury trip, which was likely being supplemented by his own funds in addition to my stolen money. The narrative Alicia had fed me about their relationship had been completely fabricated to paint herself as the victim rather than the perpetrator of heartbreak. Once the initial shock subsided, I channeled my pain into action. The morning after discovering the Instagram posts, I consulted with a lawyer who specialized in fraud cases. She explained my options with brutal honesty. Because Alicia and I were not married, the fact that her name was on our joint account complicated matters. The withdrawn funds would be difficult to legally classify as theft since she had authorized access. The credit card charges were a clearer case of fraud, however, as the card was solely in my name with Alicia, merely being an authorized user who had violated the terms of that authorization. The lawyer recommended immediately filing a police report and contacting all financial institutions involved. At the police station, I encountered the first of many frustrating responses. The officer taking my report was sympathetic but unmotivated, clearly viewing this as a lover's quarrel rather than a crime. It wasn't until I presented the email evidence showing premeditation and the substantial amounts involved that he began taking detailed notes and treating the situation with appropriate seriousness. I spent hours on the phone with credit card companies, disputing charges and explaining the situation repeatedly to increasingly higher levels of management. I filed fraud claims, submitted affidavits, and provided all the evidence I had gathered. The process was exhausting and humiliating, having to explain over and over how thoroughly I had been deceived. My bank was less helpful regarding the emptied savings account. Because Alicia was a joint account holder, they maintained, she had every legal right to withdraw the funds regardless of our personal agreement about their purpose. This devastating news meant I would need to pursue civil action to have any hope of recovery, a lengthy and uncertain process with no guarantee of success, especially with Alicia now overseas. With the initial legal and financial responses in motion, I turned my attention to gathering more information about their whereabouts and activities. I created a fake Instagram account to follow Alicia's friends, knowing she had likely blocked my regular account by now. Through this digital surveillance, I discovered they planned to visit the Maldives, Dubai, and Singapore over a 2-month period, a luxury world tour funded by my years of careful saving. My friend Kevin, who worked in IT security, helped me access backup cloud storage Alicia had forgotten to disconnect from our shared network. There we found additional evidence of her deception, including screenshots of conversations with Ryan where they mocked my trusting nature and calculated exactly how much they could take without triggering immediate fraud alerts. Kevin also helped me set up alerts that would notify me if any of my personal information or remaining financial accounts showed unusual activity. The digital breadcrumbs allowed me to track their journey in real time, a painful but necessary process for building my case. Each new post showing them enjoying sunset cruises, champagne on private beaches, and shopping sprees in luxury boutiques was like a knife twisting in an already painful wound. Yet, I forced myself to document everything, methodically creating a detailed timeline of their activities and expenditures. Pursuing legal action across international borders proved exceptionally challenging. I contacted the resort in the Maldives explaining the situation to their management. While they expressed sympathy, they were limited in what information they could legally share without a formal law enforcement request. They did confirm the booking details matched what I had found, and that the guests were currently in residence, which at least verified my understanding of their location. My lawyer attempted to engage Maldivian authorities, but the process was slow and complicated by jurisdictional issues. By the time we established appropriate channels of communication, Alicia and Ryan had already moved on to their next destination in Dubai, staying at the iconic Burj Al Arab, according to their latest social media posts. The frustration of always being one step behind them while watching them flaunt their stolen luxury was nearly unbearable. There were days when I questioned whether the pursuit was worth the emotional toll, whether I should simply accept the loss and focus on rebuilding my life. But then I would see another arrogant post, or remember the calculated cruelty of their plan, and my determination would reignite. Throughout this ordeal, I continued working, though my focus and productivity suffered significantly. My boss showed unexpected compassion when I finally explained the situation, allowing me flexible hours to deal with the legal proceedings and necessary appointments. Throwing myself into architectural projects became a form of escape, the ordered precision of design, providing a counterpoint to the chaos of my personal life. Just as it seemed Alicia and Ryan would continue their consequence-free journey indefinitely, I received an unexpected message on LinkedIn from a woman named Sarah Williams. She introduced herself as Ryan's ex-girlfriend from 2 years prior and explained she had heard about my situation through mutual acquaintances. What Sarah shared changed everything. Ryan had done this before. She described a pattern where he would target women with access to financial resources, charm them completely, then manipulate them into providing access to their money before disappearing. Alicia was not his victim, as she had claimed to me, but his accomplice who had apparently graduated from mark to partner. Sarah offered crucial information about their likely movements based on her experience. She explained that Ryan typically followed a similar travel pattern, ending his luxury escapes in Singapore, where he had connections that helped him transition funds through various accounts to obscure their origins. She even had contact information for friends in Dubai who could potentially help track their movements there. This unexpected alliance with Sarah provided not just practical assistance but also emotional validation. There was strange comfort in knowing I wasn't uniquely gullible or blind, that others had been deceived by this pair before. Sarah and I began communicating regularly, combining our knowledge to build a more complete picture of Ryan and Alicia's history and likely next steps. Sarah's connections in Dubai proved invaluable, confirming Alicia and Ryan's checkout from their hotel and their flight details to Singapore. With this information, my lawyer was able to work with international authorities to prepare for their arrival at their final destination. The net was finally closing around them. The confrontation happened 3 weeks after Alicia's disappearance. Singapore authorities, acting on information provided through proper international channels and with evidence of the financial crimes, detained Ryan and Alicia for questioning as they attempted to check into the Marina Bay Sands hotel. Their expressions of shock, captured on hotel security footage later shared with me, revealed they had never expected consequences to catch up with them. I did not travel to Singapore instead, allowing the legal process to unfold through proper channels. My lawyer arranged a video conference where I could make a formal statement and see Alicia face to face for the first time since her betrayal. The woman on the screen looked nothing like the confident, glowing figure from the Instagram posts. Her tan had faded, her expression was haggard, and the reality of her situation had clearly begun to sink in. When permitted to speak directly to her, I remained calm and composed, despite the emotional turmoil beneath the surface. I asked the only question that still mattered to me. Why not just break up with me honestly, instead of stealing what I had worked so hard to save? Her response revealed everything about her character. She claimed she deserved the money for time invested in our relationship, that I had somehow held her back from being with Ryan sooner. She attempted to rewrite our history, painting herself as unhappy and trapped. When these justifications failed to elicit sympathy, she tried tears and pleas for understanding, insisting it had been Ryan's idea, and she had been manipulated. The most telling moment came when authorities explained the potential consequences she faced. Ryan immediately distanced himself, claiming he had no knowledge of the source of the funds, that Alicia had told him it was her money. Their united front collapsed instantly under pressure, each trying to minimize their own culpability at the expense of the other. The romantic fantasy they had constructed fell apart in the harsh light of reality. While criminal charges in Singapore were eventually dropped in favor of deportation, the documentation of their detention and the evidence gathered provided strong support for my cases in the United States. My credit card company reversed most of the fraudulent charges after reviewing the evidence, and my lawyer filed civil proceedings against both Alicia and Ryan for the stolen savings. When Alicia returned to the country, she faced multiple consequences. Her parents, mortified by her actions, refused to provide financial support for her legal fees. With her limited resources quickly depleted, and Ryan now completely out of the picture, she agreed to a settlement that required her to repay the stolen funds through a structured payment plan. While I knew I might never recover the full amount, the legal judgment provided some measure of justice. Rebuilding my financial life proved challenging but not impossible. I closed all compromised accounts and established new ones with significantly enhanced security measures. I worked with a financial advisor to create a more robust system for protecting my assets, including setting up alerts for unusual activities and reconsidering how I structured joint accounts in future relationships. My credit took a temporary hit from the disputed charges and account closures, but with careful management and documentation of the fraud, I was able to restore it within a year. I developed a new budget that allowed me to rebuild my savings while still maintaining a reasonable standard of living. The experience taught me valuable lessons about financial vulnerability that, while painful, would serve me well moving forward. The insurance policy on my rental agreement unexpectedly provided additional assistance, covering some of the losses under its theft protection clause. After I provided evidence that items purchased with the fraudulent credit card charges were never in my possession, this unexpected recovery helped bridge the gap while the legal proceedings were ongoing. The emotional healing proved more challenging than the financial recovery. I struggled with insomnia, replaying warning signs I had missed and questioning my judgment. Trust, which had come naturally to me before now, felt like a dangerous liability. I withdrew from friends temporarily, especially those who had known about Alicia's deception and remained silent. At my boss's gentle insistence, I began seeing a therapist specializing in betrayal trauma. Dr. Lynn helped me understand that while I had missed red flags, the blame lay squarely with those who had deliberately deceived me. Our sessions focused on processing my anger in healthy ways and rebuilding my capacity for trust without sacrificing appropriate caution. Gradually, I reconnected with friends who had tried to warn me, especially Marcus, who never once said "I told you so." These rebuilt relationships actually grew stronger, founded on a new appreciation for honesty, even when it was uncomfortable. I learned to value people who respected me enough to tell difficult truths. Perhaps the most challenging aspect of healing was forgiving myself. I had been naive and too trusting. Yes, but I refused to see those qualities as flaws to be eliminated, rather than aspects of my character that simply needed better protection. Dr. Lynn helped me recognize that my capacity for trust and generosity were strengths when shared with worthy people, not weaknesses to be ashamed of. 1 year after Alicia disappeared with my savings, I found myself in a surprisingly good place. What had initially felt like the worst betrayal imaginable had ultimately freed me from a relationship with someone incapable of genuine love or honesty. The apartment I now lived in was entirely my own, decorated according to my taste without compromise. My savings had been substantially rebuilt through focused effort and some unexpected professional successes. The architecture firm had assigned me to lead a major sustainable housing development, a project that aligned perfectly with my professional passions and provided a significant bonus upon completion. Channeling my energy into work during the darkest days of the betrayal had unexpectedly accelerated my career trajectory. My boss later admitted he had given me the project partly to provide positive focus during a difficult time, but my performance had exceeded all expectations. I had begun dating again cautiously at first. After a few casual connections that helped rebuild my confidence, I met Eliza through a community volunteer project designing affordable housing. Her authenticity and directness were refreshing after Alicia's performances. She had experienced her own past relationship betrayals and understood my careful approach to building trust. Our shared value of honest communication, even when uncomfortable, formed the foundation of a connection that felt more genuine than anything I had experienced before. My boundaries had become healthier and stronger. I no longer confused transparency with vulnerability or financial entanglement with commitment. I had learned to watch for consistency between words and actions, to trust patterns of behavior over promises. These lessons, while painfully acquired, had made me a more discerning partner and friend. In an unexpected twist of fate, the justice system worked more effectively than anticipated. Ryan was eventually implicated in similar schemes with other victims, leading to federal charges of fraud and interstate wire fraud. His pattern of behavior, once fully investigated, revealed a much longer history of financial exploitation than even Sarah had been aware of. While this did not directly recover my stolen funds, there was undeniable satisfaction in knowing his actions had finally caught up with him. Looking back from the perspective of time, I could now recognize the painful experience as a harsh but valuable teacher. Had Alicia not shown her true character in such a dramatic fashion, I might have married her, combining our lives legally and financially in ways that would have made the eventual betrayal even more devastating. As terrible as the experience was, it saved me from a far worse fate. What I once viewed as the worst betrayal of my life ultimately became the catalyst for building a more authentic and satisfying existence. The money lost was gradually replaced, but the wisdom gained was priceless. I learned to balance trust with discernment, generosity with appropriate boundaries, and optimism with realistic awareness of human nature. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after a devastating betrayal? Share your experiences in the comments below. Do not forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and hit that share button to help someone else who might be dealing with deception in their relationship. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes the most painful experiences lead us exactly where we need to be, with the wisdom to recognize and appreciate what truly matters.